welcome to lesson number 17. Today we will let our cupcakes aside and check some other examples to understand better how the constructor works. In our next lesson we will make our first application that interacts with the user, and after that we will create another small program that turns on and off a TV and also some other cool things. Try to do some experiments on your own, because the more you practice, the better you get. You can open up your Eclipse program and then close any programs you have already opened. Go to the Package Explorer, create a new Java project, let's name it Lesson 17. And here you have it. You can click on it, go to the source, create a new package, and then let's create our main class with the main method. And then you can also click to the package you have, to new, and create another class. Let's name it our test class. Remember that the class name should always start with a capital letter. Then click finish, and now we can start by creating some variables on the data field. For example, private int our instance variable, and that's an integer. We can also create a second private int second variable. Don't forget the semicolon, and let's put a value at this one. Let's make it 5, for example, and then I will introduce you to another type of variable, private static final, and let's make it also double. When you write that, this is a constant, this is a value that can't be changed. For example, a variable varies. You can put a value to a variable, and after some lines you can change that value. That is something that you can't do with a constant, with a static final value. And let's and the way that you give it a name, it is always in capitalized in capital letters, and if you want to put a space between them, it is better to use something like that here. So for example, we can create a gravity speed, we will name it like that, and give it a value of 9.2, for example. Now you can see how the name changed here. It is a little bit on the side, italic, and not exactly as a normal variable. So now we created our data field. If you want to separate from the rest of the class for your convenience, then you can write it like that, or this is here the data field. At least for the start you can do that, so you can help yourself. Data field, and here we can write that now comes the constructor, so it is more clear for you. And here after the constructor come the methods, and after the methods end. In the constructor, as we said in our previous lesson, we will make it public. It is always public. Public, then the name of our class, so test class. Then we will open up our parentheses and our brackets. And this is our empty constructor now. You can save it and go to the main. And now we can create an object of our class, or another word would be an instance of our class. Our test class is the test class, then we will give it a name, my test class, and then new test class. And now we have an instance of our class, an object of our class, which is this one, my test class here. And we create it calling up the constructor. This here is the constructor that we call. So let's go back to our constructor and you will understand what I mean. Let's create a method. Let's create a method that we will make it private. Private void print. And then inside this method, which is a private method, we will print out something like print this. You can save it, and now go back to our constructor and try to write inside the method, because inside the constructor you can put anything you want, anything that you want to be created when you call this this instance, this object. For example, we can also call our method like that, then save. And now if you press right click, then run as Java application, you can see that we take back, it is printed in the console. The print is the thing that we wrote, because we call the constructor, and what contains the constructor contains this method, and this method points out here, which is this this line that we want to print out. When we learn to use the debugger in the future, you can see in details how the line goes. We can also put something in the constructor, like, for example, double this variable, and then we can say the gravity speed. And now we can do the following. We have put the value of the gravity speed, which we have set here, 9.2, to a variable, to a box, to this variable. So if we go to the main and then we try to make a system out print line, then we call our my test class and see here that we have a bunch of methods, as we see on our previous lesson. So we can't find a way to print out this line here. Is it correct? Let's see about it. We can run the application again, and no, we don't take anything back. Why does this happen? We have here this value. If you want to know, we can create here this var, and this is inside our constructor. So when we press enter, what is called is this part here, and we call now a variable that has the fixed value of our gravity speed, and then in order to print out this this variable, we call the system out print line method. Let's check it one more time now, and now we see that it is printed in the console. Another way to do it, we could try, for example, to do that. Why can't we do it? Can you think why can't we do it? Because here, if we go the cursor on it, you can see what is missed. It is this part is missed because this part is inside the instance, inside the object that we create. That it doesn't exist yet here, and that's why you can't use it. But I showed you a way to print it out on the console if you write this system out print line here inside the constructor. Let's see some other examples here. Let's make another method. We will also do it a private method. Private void print this, or print that method. Let's do it so. And here inside the parentheses we will add something. We will add a string, for example, string s. This is a local variable. This is a local variable of the type string, and the name that we gave to this local variable is the s. So let's make it system out print line, and then we can print out the s, the value that we will give it, plus let's write whoa, and then we will also print out the instance variable. But we have a problem here. We haven't defined the instance variable yet. How can we do it? We can define it either here, like that, or you can define it here, instance variable is 10, or another way would be here inside this parenthesis, like we saw on our previous lesson, int instance, for example, and then you make instance variable is the same as instance. But we will do it this way. Instance variable, we will give it a value of 10 so that you can see every possibility. Here the second variable, we have defined it inside the data field, and we define this one here inside the constructor. So we have everything that we need here. Is that correct? Let's see it. Let's print, for example, the print this method. Print the print that method. And it prompts something here. When you try to do this method, what is it prompt? It is prompt the value that you ask here inside the parameter, this local variable, because you can't use this method if you don't write something as a parameter. So it does need to be a string. So let's write, for example, hello, and now it is accepted. And you can also write other things like hello plus, and then we can make an empty sign, and then we can also add this variable here, which is nothing else as the constant here. Let's try it, this variable, and it works. And let's print it out and see what happens. So we take back hello 9.2, whoa 10. Let's see it and try to understand it. So what we call here to be printed out is actually the s, and the s is here, is that. So we say hello plus 9.2, because this variable has a value of 9.2, and then if we go back to the method, it continues, wow, and then we call the instance variable, which we have defined inside the constructor. So it sounds a little bit complicated, but it isn't that much complicated, and this is why I do this video, in order to try to make some experiments also at home, and try to understand how can we use the constructor and the methods. So let's go further and do something else. Let's make another method, private void print another one, for example. So, and here we will define the same parameter as here. This is a local variable, and there are two ways to define a local variable inside a method, either here or inside it, like that string, and let's use the O, and we will also define it like we will say omega, for example. Don't forget the semicolon. And now we have the local variable here, and this local variable lives and dies inside this method. I can't call the O, this variable O, inside the class, only here inside this method. And then we can print something like system.println, and then we will say the O, which will be the omega, plus we will leave an empty space, and then we will call the second variable. The second variable is something that we defined here. It has a number of 5. So what do you expect to be printed out? I think it will be omega, because O is omega, plus then we will have an empty space, and the second variable is a 5. So let's try to run this application, and nothing happened. Why we don't have anything here as a result? Can you try to think about it? Because we didn't call the method inside the constructor. We just wrote the method. So if we write here, print another one, see, we don't have to write some parameters like here, because our parameter is empty. And if we call it now, let's run this application, we will take the omega 5 that we told before. And let's make a last method. The last method that we will create is a method to add two numbers. For example, let's make it also private int, because we want now something in return. We want that the method return to us something back. So add two numbers, and then what would you put inside the parentheses as parameters? We need two numbers. We need that the user insert two numbers, the number A, let's make it number A, and another integer, the number B. Then we will open up the brackets, and we will return, so that the compiler remains happy, we will return number A plus number B. And now the compiler is happy. And let's try to add this method here by write the add two numbers, and now the compiler asks us to put these two numbers. Let's put the number 20 as the first number, then you can press the tab and you can complete the second number, and let's say 30. Don't forget the semicolon. So what should it give us back? Number A plus number B. Let's see, will we take something in return? I think not, and we didn't take something in return. Do you know why? Because we don't ask the compiler to return something in the console. We say only to the compiler that we want these two values back to us. We just want the compiler to add, we ask him to add these two numbers. We say, hey compiler, here, go and add these two numbers. We don't specify what to do with these two numbers, because we don't have anywhere the method system.out.println. So the way to do it would be to create a system.out.println here, put the whole thing inside it, and now we say to the compiler, print out this result. Let's see it happen. And now we have a result, the 50. Now, can we see a last thing here? We can also put to the return here, here the instance variable also. The instance variable is also an integer that we have defined where? Here inside the constructor. So we say return us A, B, the two numbers that we will give you, and then add to these numbers also the instance variable which has a value of 10. Let's see it happen, and we take back 60. As you can see, we take back exactly what we expected to take. And before I close this video, we will do a last thing. We will create a variable that will be an integer. Let's name it x, something simple. And then inside this variable, we will put the outcome of the method that adds the two numbers. How can you do it? Just add this method here. And then we will say add 10 and 10. So the method we add, the result that we will take from this will be 20 or something else. No, it won't be 20, it would be 30, because it is 10 and 10 plus the instance variable that is 10. So we say put inside x the value of 30. 10 plus 10 plus 10. Let's see it happen here. And we take the value of 30. And we can also say here plus this variable. Plus this variable. What do you think that will happen? Let's check it out. And see, before we check it out, this variable is the gravity speed, which has a value of 9.2. Let's run it, and we take back 9.2. Exactly what we expected to take. So this was it. It was also a little long video, but we have discussed a lot of things, and I'm sure that you can also try to do some experiments at home and try to play with numbers, try to play with methods, try to play with your constructor, and try to learn it. So as I said at the start, on our next lesson, we will make a small application that interacts with the user. So we will ask the user to put some numbers, and then we will do some calculations. It will be fun. And then we will also create a small program that can turn on the LED of the television, or that can shows us which channels are on and such things. So the point to make of these examples is to learn better the constructor, because really these are the fundamentals of Java, and if you can try to understand what a class is, what an instance of a class is, what an object of a class is, and how to use the constructor or many constructors, because you can have more than just one constructor in a class, and how the methods interact with the constructors, then you have understood, or then you have already understood the half of the Java. So this was it for today. I'm sorry for the long video, but I think that it was worth it. And thank you all for watching and for your time.